Tonight, the college football standings will be released. And then, of course, there are still two more. After the final weekend, this weekend of the regular season, and then after championship weekend, conference championship weekend, that first full weekend in the month of December.
They're going to be released, and everybody's going to say, you know what, great job, committee, and handshakes,
let's move on.
And let's go enjoy some turkey.
No one will be upset. Actually, more teams now involved, but also more teams, it could be a part of it. No one's going to get what they want most likely unless, of course, it's a team that gets in. So what we decided to do is Garrett, Paul, Craig, and me put up our, as we think. Now, I want you to pay attention because most of you don't in the chat or anywhere else. This is who I would vote as my college football's top 12 per today. Not what my forecast is for after the conference championship weekend. This is who I say what I would put in to the college football standings. Oregon, Texas, SMU, Arizona State. That does not mean they're 1 through 4 of what I think, but those are the 4 automatic bids based on highest ranked conference champions. And I know Boise State and number 4, the Big 12, could be one hell of an argument. Ohio State, Georgia, which means, again, based on now, if I did this post-conference championship game, maybe that's different. Notre Dame, Penn State, Tennessee, Miami, Indiana drops from what was, 3 or whatever it was. Again, they were not supposed to be 3. The top 4 are conference champions as of right now, in my opinion, and then Boise State, the Broncos, and Ashton Genty in the number 12 spot.
Yeah, And do you want to go through all of ours first and then recap?
Yeah, I want to make sure again because this is not my projection of what it will be. This is my projection of what I would vote if it was released by me tonight in the college football standings. So that's mine.
All right.
And we can pick and choose at those. Let's go to yours.
So, no. Well, I put it this in order of you.
Okay, here's Craig's.
Craig is next.
All right. You want to give it an explanation?
I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, I mean, here's what I think as far as the seedings, as far as if I was doing it right now. I don't feel like, I mean, obviously, I think Arizona State, I'd go with them right now based on what we know. But, I mean, this is for this week, as you said. So my end of season would look way different than this. I wouldn't have Texas at 2 because I don't think it'll be Texas. I wouldn't have Arizona State at 4 because I don't necessarily think it'll be them. But based on what we know right now, this is how I would have it lined up with the top 4. I know a lot of people have SMU in that 3 spot. I still feel like Miami's a better team. But if you want to argue records and all of that, like, and get into the minutia of it, that's fine. But I just give the tip of the cap to Cam Ward, ultimately in the Miami versus SMU discussion. I think 5's explanatory. You know, Notre Dame, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I guess where it starts to get weird maybe for some is 7 on because you could have a different – like Penn State, I know is higher for some people, but I just look at their schedule and it's like it's another one of those teams where it's like, well, they lost close to the best team they played, and that's just that doesn't sell me on anything.
No.
Losses don't sell me only if you have like a bunch of good wins on top of those losses. But that's not what sells me is like, hey, they lost really close to Ohio State. I just need a little bit more than that. So I could see, though, where some would have them at like 6 or 7. But for me, in comparison to Georgia and to Notre Dame and Georgia, I think those teams are slightly better. I'd give SMU the slight nod over Tennessee right now because they only have 1 loss, and I do think they have some respectable wins on their schedule. But I know that could be debated as well. And then the final 2 for me were the easiest. Like the top 4 was the easiest for me because that's just how I see it as of this stage. And then 11 and 12, I think Indiana's a great story. I think they deserve to be in the playoff after what happened last weekend. But I still need to see more. Like, they blew a bunch of teams out. That's great. But in comparison to a lot of these other teams, I do feel their resume is lacking. That's another one of those, well, they played Ohio State close, and that's another one of those types of things. So,
like Penn State.
Yeah, and then for me, there's not even a question between the Big 12 winner and Boise State. I've been waving the Ashton Genty flag all long before people knew how to pronounce his last name correctly. And I got emails to prove it, all right? Mm-hmm. So I've been a fan of this young man for a really long time. I hope he wins the Heisman Trophy in a lot of ways. I think that'd be awesome. But you look at their schedule, and it's just not comparable. Like, it's just, again, another team where your best win is a loss. And in their case, that's particularly true. Their best win, their only ranked game, is the loss to Oregon. They have not played anybody else in the top 25. So to me, yeah, Arizona State's got an extra blemish, but I do think that while it's not comparing the SEC to like the Southland, I do think that running the Big 12 schedule that Arizona State has and will by the end of this thing versus what Boise State has seen, that's why I give the Sun Devils the nod for that 4 spot.
By the way, before we get to yours, Paul, every single team in Craig's top 12 and every single team in my top 12, the way we have them aligned are different, but they're all the same 12 teams.
And they're all the same in mine, too. It's
right. Well, and because I think after last week there's some clarity now.
Yeah,
but
there is.
I also think that in mine, what was the matchup? I think it's the 7-10. If we wanted to like really go out, I think the committee would probably change that up. Like they say that they don't, but I think they would change up Georgia-Tennessee.
Because they would play each other in a rematch?
And I just don't think they want to play in the first round.
They're going to try to separate some of those
So
teams,
I think that the committee would do something about that. I also think the next 2 weeks will determine that. So that's going to get fixed. So I'm not worried about like, oh, I've got to put Tennessee in a different spot because there might be a rematch. Well, that doesn't matter right now. It's the 10 best or the 12 best teams, period, regardless of the lineup. So I just wanted to point that out because there's that finessing of the rankings. I'm not doing that at this moment.
Yeah.
All right.
And next Friday we can do this again.
No, we won't.
Why not?
Because I said so.
Okay.
All right, no, we'll do it again. No, we'll do it again. No.
Yeah, so we'll do it again.
Yeah.
But
and maybe next Tuesday because that's the day they release the standings.
I was just saying like Friday before the games on Saturday, because on Sunday they would have already released the standing a week from Sunday. So like Monday when we get here to do the show, we'll know who's going everywhere.
Yeah.
So we should do it on Friday.
To project what it's going to be?
Project
okay.
what it's going
all right.
to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we might do it twice next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So here's mine. And I have Oregon number 1. I have Texas number 2. SMU number 3. I think they're going to beat Miami. I think that they're actually a more complete team than the Hurricanes are. And I've got Arizona State at 4. And it came down to that same thing with me. Now, I got a little more like vicious with the seeding. I guess like I wanted to give Boise State credit for taking on having a close loss to the number 1 team in the country. If that's a metric, then I put them right behind Ohio State. I put Notre Dame at 5. I have Georgia at 6. Although I could easily in my mind flip 6 and 7. Indiana I put higher again for that same standard. And then Tennessee, Miami, and Penn State. I have Penn State at 12 because I don't think Penn State's really that good. They don't and they've earned their way in because they're going to have the record to be in. They're going to be 11-1. They should be in the playoff. But I don't think that they need to be rewarded with a home game for anything that they've done. And, that's why I'd rather see, them be the 12th seed and have to go see the 5, whoever that is. And in my mind, it's Notre Dame, which Penn State at Notre Dame in the first round of the playoffs, pretty damn exciting. Notre Dame at Penn State in the first round of the playoffs, pretty exciting either way. But I just did not want to reward them with a home game for any reason.
All right. Same 12 teams. Isn't that great? Because there could be 2 or others that could slide into that. Garrett Ross and your LSU Tigers, not a part of this. If they are, then we will put you on suspension and reprimand you like Arizona State's fans. Go.
Yeah, so for me, looking at this, I went Oregon number 1. Obviously, they're only undefeated team in the nation. I went Ohio State number 2. I think their body of work checks out. You got the win over Indiana last week, who a lot of people were high on. You had the close loss against Oregon. Texas is number 3 to me. I like their offense. I like what they could do. I know you blew a tire there against Georgia. I kind of feel like that was a one-off game. And I like right now where Texas is at over Georgia as a program. SMU, I got it number 4. I think what they've been able to do this year is really remarkable. Number 5, Notre Dame for me is kind of tricky. I think Notre Dame is kind of fool's gold year in and year out. But right now, and I still kind of can't get over that loss to Northern Illinois. So I have them right there. I like Georgia where they're at. I think Georgia's going to be in the mix here. Looking at number 7, I think regardless of how this shapes out in the ACC, me personally, I think that SMU and Miami's body of work this year, both of them should be in the playoff. I just think that they have a good argument to make there. Number 8, Boise. I'm kind of like with Craig. I think their body of work is it's not there, right? Like you had the one good win over Wazoo, but at the end of the day, you don't really have much else to show for it. I like Arizona State right now at number 9. I wanted to put, just not realistically, I think the hottest team in the Big 12 obviously is Kansas. They just don't have a chance to get in. I think Arizona State will likely win the Big 12 right now. Looking at Penn State and Indiana, it's kind of like a coin flip. Both of them, their resume are very similar there. With Indiana having that loss last week, I elected to put Penn State ahead of them. And then the SEC, like however we want to put it, the SEC is going to get at least 3 teams into this. And I think right now, the way it's shaped up, Tennessee is going to be that last SEC team that finds its way into it.
Okay, leave yours up because there's one thing that if we can correct it on the air, because Oregon and Ohio State at 1 and 2 are in the same conference. So we're going to put the conference winners.
Oh, then
1, 2, 3, and 4. Who would you insert? That means Texas would be bumped up, or however, who would you insert? Would it be Arizona State or Boise?
In that scenario, going off these standings, I would have to put Boise,
okay.
but likely I would rather have Arizona State.
Same 12 teams?
Correct.
Same 12
Same
teams
12.
across the board. So we all have the same teams. As Craig said, there was a little bit of clarity from the weekend and also a little bit of chaos from the weekend, too. So there we are with that.